Chat. Let me get my playmat on the field. So we're going to be looking at the first deck that I've made. It is Vampires. It's good. It's a pretty interesting, very big boy deck. So let's take a look at our ruler for this. Very nice human white ruler. I'm using her for her gems. Essentially, I get 3 free mana from her at the beginning of the game. And on her flip side, I gain an extra 2 mana. So she only costs 2 to flip, essentially. This deck right now is an all color, so the magic stones, of course, are going to be replicating that. Just take a look at these. See, I've got 4 of these, which help play multicolored resonators. Got mostly blue and black magic stones, as most of the creatures are blue or black. And some different multicolored mana stones to help push along those other colors that you really don't get to see. Of course, some green. For our green creatures, we've got quite a bit of those, but mostly just black, blue magic stones. We've got a few others in there just to balance it out for the curve. Of course, we got 20 sitting in the deck. 20 is about all I really use for my magic stone decks. I don't really do any more, except for if I were to make a magic stone deck, I suppose. That can be a thing. So let's start taking a look at the deck itself. It is a massive deck, and so massive that I ran out of sleeves. So about half of it's mixed with Pokemon sleeves. So, however, I do promise this is forcible. So, I don't go live too often, and I really like this game. Of course, I've still got these other 2 deck boxes. This holds 3 decks. This holds another 2, plus all my dice. So let's look at a theoretical average hand here. We got this, a nice little bit of control card, disallowing our opponents to play spells until end of turn. This spell, allowing my creatures to attack multiple times without resting. It's pretty nice. Draw power or discard power, depending on what the situation calls for. It's more than likely going to be used for drawing. Vampire Girl can gain me life, and her nice ability gains her to attack for every dark I tap for her, so it's pretty nice. So, I mean, I can have up to 20, so, that's like 40,000 attack points or something. Or 4,000, somewhere around there. It's 4,000, yeah. This edition's pretty good. Makes my Resonator a zombie in addition to its other type. It gets +2/+2, and whenever a Resonator enters the field, you may add this card from your graveyard to that Resonator. So it's a pretty nice addition. It costs 1 and can be put on Resonators even if it's on in the graveyard. So it brings itself back. Really nice for a slower pace deck. It can be very slow. This card's really good. There's only 1 copy in the whole deck. I think there might be 2 for such a large deck, but its use is very limited. I have to have exactly 12 Resonators or total number of resonators and all magic stones must be 12, otherwise I cannot use this at all. However, if I do only have 12, so like let's say I notice I have 12 magic stones and I stop turning over magic stones, I can keep this nearby just in case my opponent board wipes me and turn all their resonators into 0-2s, stopping them from attacking. Magic box. It destroys a resonator for 1, essentially, which is really nice for an addition. So it's at the beginning of their turn, and you play it and then you bestow it. So essentially, it costs 2 mana, and then on the so you can only play it on your turn, unless of course you give the card quick cast. This guy, he's a board wipe. You sacrifice him life points, but as mentioned before, we've got a vampire in here that gains this life. So, you kill monsters, and for every monster that goes into the grave, he gets a 1/1 counter. So it can be very good against creature-heavy decks. This makes all my mana stones tap for any color. But yeah, I don't know why they had to put such lengthy text whenever they've had shorter, I guess, to basically make newer players understand the purpose behind the tree. The Necronomicon. It's a last-ditch effort play if you've got so many things in your graveyard. But however, after you play this, everything going to your graveyard will be banished from the game instead. And at the end of every turn after you play this, you must discard your hand. So, yeah, this is a card that you want to play if you're playing against a mill deck. So if you happen to draw this card while you're playing a mill decking, they've gotten to here, it's probably worthwhile to play this. And then if you've got plenty of mana stones, you can play everything on your graveyard. It's going to be very handy in that situation, but I don't think it'll be used that often. Griffins. Only in here to further push your mana stones out if you're rolling a slow game, to help expedite your mana stone progress, for situations like this. It's a situational card. It's a good flying card. It costs 6 essentially, pretty much 4 because it comes out with 2 free mana stones. So it costs 4 for a 12/12 flying creature. It's not too bad. Another draw or discard X cards card. This one allows me to search my entire library for a vampire. I have very many vampires, however, probably just going to use it for Vampire Girl or the other vampire that's in this deck. This enchant is very nice. Gives all my creatures, some +1/+1 counters. And I may also play a creature that costs 4 or less from my hand, as long as I control a light and a wind resonator, which is a pretty hard fulfillment role in this deck, because there's only, I think, literally one light creature in this whole deck. This spell right here allows me to look at my opponent's hand, choose a non-resonator card, they discard that card, and I put a +1/+1 counter on a resonator I control, giving my resonators +1/+1 counters. That comes in handy. This vampire, this is the other one I was talking about. When this enters the field, it moves all the +1/+1 counters from other J resonators to this card. I pay a purple, I remove a +1/+1 counter from this card, and I put 2 on another vampire I control. And there's 4 of these. There's 4 of these in the deck, as you can imagine why. There's another one of those guys. There's another one of her. This guy. Another way of gaining life. He costs 7, 1500, but I destroy a resonator. It's very nice because there can be some very big resonators on the field. And for 7 to just simply say he's gone and now I have life points equal to its defense. That's pretty nice. Another one, there's a few. There's another one of her. This one's pretty nice. When this card enters your field, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. Put a chant from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Idea behind that is to have stuff in the graveyard, so especially resonators. It's really good if it pops off with resonators. However, if you pull nothing but chance, it's kind of a oof. This one, I can put a vampire resonator from my graveyard into your field. It also triggers its enter ability. So let's say I have specifically that vampire right down there. When it enters, I can search for another vampire and, put it to my hand if I have enough mana to play another vampire. I mean, for 4 mana, I would probably do it with a more better vampire if there was one in the graveyard at that point in time. But there usually isn't. Another one of these that prevents my opponent from playing spells. It's a nice one to have, plus the torrent, allowing you to essentially play it twice. This one, purely for the 5 counters, but I can also give target creature -5/-5, which is also nice. This spirit is one of the 2 creatures in here that cost white. When it enters the field, I draw a card, and whenever this card is dealt damage, I gain that much life. So let's say they're swinging like a big monster, like let's say, I don't know, something stupid like 8,000 attack, essentially enough to one-shot you. This comes in handy. You just block, and it just like, oh, thanks for the 80 health points, It's very nice. A nice draw card and returning creatures. It's another one of those hard conditions to meet to do both, but more than likely going to be choosing the draw cards for this deck. You got a lot of cards to burn through. This guy, whenever he enters the field, gives flying and swiftness to all my resonators. So he's going to be nice in very specific situations. However, it is nice that he gives all the resonators swiftness. So that's why he's in here. Because if I summon a bunch of stuff in one turn and then have enough mana to throw him out onto the field, I'm going to be throwing him out onto the field to swing with that big board. God, this thing is so big. Here's another good one that gives me life and just destroys a resonator my opponent controls. As long as it's attacking. And I gain life equal to its defense, so again, that one just straight up destroys it for 2 mana. This card, a 1 cost, quick cast. Cancel target automatic ability of a resonator. Draw a card. A very nice card for stuff that says continuous trigger upon entering such and such, stuff like that. But yeah, against creatures that do all sorts of stuff, that's gonna be very nice. You just cancel it, and then it's gone. That ability is no more. Well, other than if it's got another one that just, does it again. Like continuous is very annoying to deal with, but upon injury effects and stuff like that, this card is very useful for. This vampire cannot attack unless it has a 1/1 counter on it. And for 3, it deals 200 to a resonator. +1/+1 counter on this. And if my ruler is this very specific vampire, I get 2 counters instead. So, I mean, she's there because it's a 1-drop creature, and I have very many other ways of putting 1/1 counters with 1 in this deck. So, a very nice turn 1 creature with my ruler, because essentially I can have a very nice big turn 1. I have 3 mana from her and 4 from my opening turn. So 4 mana on turn 1 is a lot to deal with. This allows me to take an extra turn as long as my opponent cannot play X. And if they are able to pay X, I lose the game straight up. A very situational card. It is something to play when you're desperately in need for another turn and you need some kind of answer. Like, let's say you're down bad and your field is not too great. Your opponent's crushing you. You can use this card to then draw another card, like something like this, I suppose. But let me read this. Remnant. You may play this card from your graveyard if you do. Okay. Put target resonator from your graveyard into your hand. Then you may put target Eternal Darkness resonator with a total cost 3 or less from your hand into your field. So, a nice chant. You pay 4 for a resonator that costs 3 or less. Essentially, you get a resonator back from your grave and to put one from your hand into your field, making this a 1-cost card. Interesting. Pretty much. Again, this vampire costs 1. He puts a +1/+1 counter on a target resonator, and if my opponent controls a special magic stone, I get to put 2 counters on that resonator instead. Like I said, plenty of ways to put 1/1 counters on stuff. This chick, when she enters the field, when she's put into a graveyard from the field, I can put target vampire card with total cost 2 or less from your graveyard into your hand. Again, lots of vampires coming back from the graves. This is essentially like the tree, except for, anyone with any attributes. So makes my mana stones produce any color. Another one that puts target, resonator from graveyard into hand. There's a lot of graveyard stuff in this deck to return creatures to my hand. I've got 2 of these actually. Interesting. Here's my other light resonator creature. It also gives a 1/1 counter to creature. It's a 6/6 for 2, so it's not too bad. Another one of these. Another one of these. For barrier, it means it can't be targeted by target spells and abilities, so it can't be directly targeted by stuff. I think that even protects it from target attack and whatnot. Precision. Another one of those. Another one of her. Put 2 1/1 counters on target resonator. Another white chant. Remove target resonator from the game. 3 mana to just say no, goodbye. Way of dealing with resonators. A card that removes. I can discard a hand. I can discard a card from their hand. Destroy target addition. Or regalia. Regalias are not something you see commonly. Another one of her. This. Pay 2 more for normal spells. I think for under that context, that means resonators, chants, resonators and chants, and probably additions too. So putting this on my opponent's creatures make them pay 2 more for everything. Hello, Glitch. Welcome, welcome. Another one of these. Another Griffin. Another one of those. This Vampire. Banish this card, put 2+1/+1 counters on target J Resonator. Again, another 1-cost Vampire that does counters. And of course, all those other vampires that are able to pull stuff out of the grave, put them out of the grave, do other stuff. I've got plenty of ways to put this guy back onto my field to put more +1/+1 counters on my resonators. The art on this game looks good. I'm not gonna lie. This chick is the bread and butter of the deck. I may pay 1 less to play this card for each resonator in my graveyard. So let's say I had 5 resonators. This chick would only cost 2. And at the beginning of my turn, I put a resonator from my graveyard into my field. Yeah. Busted. Absolutely busted for a creature. I've got like 4 of them in there. Another Pumpkin Witch. Another one of her. Oh, by the way, if there are 2 of her on the field, yes, it is infinite, 1/1 counters. So, essentially, if I have 2 of these on the field and have all 20 of my mana stones on the field and they're all black, I mean, that's 80 1/1 counters, I think, because it gets 2 times. No, that's 40. Still 40 1/1 counters. I mean, like, hard to beat. Another one of these vampire bats. So, like I said, I could take those 20, put them on her, and then 40, gaining 40 life a turn from this chick alone. Of course, having those vampires that I can just play and be like, oh, I'm going to remove 40 of my life points just to wipe away your field, and then he gets like 1/1 counters for each of those creatures. Another one of her that just puts cards into the graveyard, which, like I said, graveyard deck. It's a vampire graveyard deck. I'm just realizing this. Here's another card that counters abilities. Your opponent pays 1 more to play activate abilities of resonators they control. And if I have 8 or more magic stones, my opponent cannot play active abilities. Which is stuff like, let's see, like this. This pay for ability down here, they would not be able to do stuff like that at all. However, if it's a continuous ability, that still goes through. Another house. There's like 4 of these in there. Turns all my mana stones into any color, which is nice. Another vampire that puts counters on my creatures. Another card that allows me to attack X times with a creature. So imagine having this with a 40/40 vampire, flying vampire, and just being like, okay, this creature attacks like 18 times. If they're able to block all 18 times, good on them. But how will you kill somebody with like over 1,000,000 life points? Draw another draw card. This allows me to draw cards based on the number of attributes I control. There are 5 total attributes, so at most I can pay 3, draw 5. Another one of these that just destroys the resonator at the beginning of turn. Another one of these, more counters. This deck, I feel like it's going to run well, but it's just big. It has a lot of opportunity to not run well. Another tree. Another dragon. I think it's dragon. Might be chimera. It's chimera. Trying to get to something different here. I think that's pretty much everything in the deck. Nope, this. Pay to destroy target resonator. Yeah, just 2 mana and boobity bobbity, your big creature is gone. Ooh, there's this one too. Essentially just free draw card. If the creature cost is not odd, you know, I draw a card. And if there's no creatures at all, I just draw a card. It's 1 mana draw a card. What is there to not like about that? Another free turn generator. Then again, if they're able to pay, 18 mana, well, you just lose the game. Nothing you can do about that. Another one of her. This card right here gives all cards in my hand quick cast, essentially allowing me to play them at any time. Also, whenever it enters the field, it lets me draw a card. So as long as I have 7 or more mana stones in the field, yeah, everything will have quick cast. So like this creature, if it was like my opponent's turn and I had the mana to play this guy, and he was like going to be like, haha, now I'm going to like attack this creature directly, and since it's like missing, X counter, like it's 1 counter stronger, they have a special magic stone, be like, well, nope, not really. Your creature dies now, sucker. Another target removal. More removal in the deck. There's one whole. I only put one certain edition in there that binds well with these down here. When your opponent plays an automatic ability of a resonator they control that was put into a field from a non-field zone this turn, while you control a water magic stone, cancel that ability and destroy that resonator. Yeah. I will show you some of these automatic ability resonators. I've got some decks in there that have them, so I'm going to go look for the last few remaining cards to draw 2 cards. Pay 2 for 2. Value. Cards I haven't shown. This allows me to put a target resonator from my graveyard into my hand for 3, so pretty good value from a zombie. This guy is essentially the backup carry. I get +1/+1. Oh, those noises, those were texts. Honestly, I think I need to. Hold on, let me disable notifications here. Let me swipe all those away. Okay, we're back. I just had to turn off notifications real quickly, so that way that wouldn't happen again. If I see one of those, sorry, seeing one of these, but just in case. This edition is really good. I am able to pay for and draw a card, so really good if I've got nothing else on the field that is allowing me to draw cards. Another quick cast one. Another box of doom. Another multi-attack spell. Another creature that just straight up just like yeet. Another draw or discard card. More magic, more counters. More counters. More vampire. More additions that do stuff. Another griffin. Another pumpkin witch. When I said there was only one of these, I was not joking. This right here. Non-darkness resonators gain -2/-2. Well, I don't know if you noticed this or not. Every resonator in this is darkness except for like those light ones. Those light resonators are the only ones. So I do not have any more. I don't think I do. I do actually. I just didn't put them in. I need to remove some cards and put 3 more of these in here for the sticky situations where you've only got 12 magic stones on the field, and well, turn all your opponent resonators into 0/2s. They're non-darkness. If they're not a darkness resonator, they get -2/-2. They just instantly die. I mean, like, what's not to love about that? Still high value cards overall, and I think the rest are just the same stuff that we've seen throughout the deck. No, there is one spell here that I've not shown. Destroy all 2 cost or less resonators. It's a self-imploding bomb for sure, because most of these resonators cost 2 or less, but I mean, can't really do nothing about it. It pretty much finishes off this deck. There's nothing else to look at. I've shown literally every card in here. The rest are just duplicates and whatnot. Alright. So that's essentially the thesis behind the vampire deck. Is a graveyard, hey, I just get my creatures back, so it's going to be a very slow deck, but I feel like it has aspects to be able to keep up with like control decks, because it has way of dealing with creatures, but I don't think it will do very well against heavy control decks and super like meta decks. But I don't have meta cards, so I'm not too worried about that. Not a lot of people play this game anyways, so not anybody around here. And anybody that does, they just use my decks, because, well, I'm the only person around here that pays for this game. Okay. There's this deck. This deck. I'm pretty sure this is buff deck. Pretty sure it's buff deck. And then good old troll deck. You monster. This deck right here is my favorite. This has been like numero uno deck. It's been revised. It's not as thick. It is a dual colored deck. It is a red-white. And its ruler makes all the mana stones tap for red. So the Magic Stone deck, of course, is, well, one color. I mean, why put red stones in there when all of them are red stones? Nah. So let's get a look at what's inside Troll deck. Of course, this deck's going to be changing here soon. I've got some ideas for it. I've got some cards I want to put in there, cards I need to take out, make it run a bit better. But right now, this is a slam down creatures, swing it your face kind of deck. It has hardly any spells, and the spells that it does have is to specifically deal with specific encounters. So, a flying first strike that costs 4. It's an 8/8. It's a very decent card for, a 4-drop. A 1-drop that produces 3 as long as you have 5 mana stones in play. So you gain 2 mana off this guy. Value. This chick, if you pay 3, she goes out, searches for a Grim. He comes into the field with her. So for 3, you get 2 creatures, and they're both 5/5s. It's not bad. There are copies of her. They're all at the top. Here's one of those Grims. He gives +2/+2 to other light resonators I control. Not too bad, not too bad. More Grims. By the way, this dude's a prince. Yeah, that's right. I said dude. This is probably one of the best 4-drops in the deck. Probably the best 4-drop. Swiftness, precision, and first strike. And it's a 10/10. And by that, I mean a 1,000. I'm just removing 2 zeros. I don't know. It's something I do. It's weird. Precision allows this to target unrested monsters. So in this position, a monster is not rested, but in this position, it is rested. And any monster in the rested position may be attacked by other monsters. And since it has first strike, well, it hits first. Flying big boy dragon for 5. He comes in and gives you 1,000 life. Pretty good. This guy, he enters the field, destroy target addition. May also pay a light and get +200 health until end of turn. I mean, pretty good blocker for 3. 6-drop. That turns into a 3 if my opponent controls a dragon. I don't think there's a dragon in the vampire deck, but he has swiftness and pierce. Pierce, like let's say he attacks, he hits this 200 health creature down here. 1,000 of his attack will go through to your life points. And whenever he enters the field, I may attach a sword named that. It's so blurry, it's not wanting to focus. But the sword name is Ame no Habakiri. And then also, whenever it enters, it deals its attack damage to a resonator, which, Pierce still affects, because whenever it attacks a creature, it's... So yeah, with that fire sword, this creature is extremely overpowered, and at best it costs you 3 mana for this beast. A lightning, just for some damage. A force to fight card, so you can make 2 resonators fight each other. So take your 1 resonator and your opponent's resonator, they fight, and bigger attack man comes out on top. This dragon allows me to pay 2 less per card I played a turn, so at most he can cost is 1. A 1-drop dragon. This is the sword. It has continuous abilities. Added resonator gains +4/+4. So we'd make the guy a 16. And whenever added resonator deals damage to a resonator your opponent controls, this card deals that much damage to the resonator's controller. So let's go back to this guy. This is kind of like the idea behind this. So let's say your opponent has this puny guy out on the field, and it's his only creature. Well, let's say he has this in a dragon, because he's playing like some expensive dragon deck, and he's got these guys to help boost along that deck. So he's got this on the field. You pay your 3 mana. This comes out onto the field. This gets attached first, and then his second enter ability triggers, which is to deal his attack damage to this creature, which is going to be 1600. So you take 1600 and then another 14 because of Pierce. So in total, you take 20 damage from this one creature alone from it entering the field. And then if it swings again, because it's got swiftness, it can attack right away as soon as it's summoned. That's another 16 attack points going at your opponent. If they block it, yes, they can reduce the piercing damage, but they better block it fully from the piercing damage. Otherwise, they're going to just take more damage than just letting this attack through. You're better off letting the attack go through and dealing with it some other way. Let's like via spells or target removal. More of these swords. There's like 4 of them. This card. It's like if you're in a desperate losing situation. But yeah. Very good card. Honestly, this is just in here to allow you to deal with flying decks. Because there's hardly any flying creatures in this deck, so this castle's there to, well, help that out. There's like 2 of them in there. Another one of her. This guy's in here because a lot of fire magic stones, because not sure that it works that way, but if it doesn't, he's getting removed anyways. So this is one of those cards that may get removed, may stay, because it's kind of a meh. Another dragon. The dragons probably staying, the white ones, but I can't say as much for the red ones. This gives a resonators in control with a certain attribute barrier, so allows them to not be targeted by spells, which, helps against certain decks. Looking at you, Sir Cancer, who is still in the blue box. This card is... yeah. This is not a good card to play against vampires, because there are a lot of resonators in this deck. And there's that one backup resonator, so... yes, it's a good solution, but not always. Herald. You go search for another Herald, and that's pretty much it. You shuffle afterwards. Herald. Herald, search for Heralds, and, you get enough mana, you can just play them all. Orochi. This is the worst version, but with a fire sword, he's not that bad. He gets, attacking doesn't cause this card to rest. Each of my turns, this card can attack up to 8 times. When this card is put into a graveyard from a field, I may search the deck for a card named Kusagani Sword and add it to a resonator. I don't think I have that sword in this deck. And then I shuffle my main deck. This is the worst Orochi that is in the deck. He's probably going to be replaced with a different card. Because, yes, he's a raid boss, but he's a terrible raid boss. Another one of those. That card's pretty good. This card's good. Another sword. Another one of those spells. Here's the better Orochi. If you may be wondering, how is a 0 attack cost card that costs 8 better? Well, swiftness allows him to just straight up attack right away. I don't even think the other Orochi gets swiftness. No, he does. He also has target attack, but this Orochi is still better. When this card enters your field, it deals 800 damage to each other resonator. This is one of those abilities that are automatic. And his bottom one, whenever this card attacks, it deals 800 damage to your opponent and each other resonator. So he spares himself from these attacks, but everything else just takes 1600. So you take this 800 damage you're dealing to your opponent's resonators on the second go. If they're not already dead, you put a fire sword on this guy. You swing. Yes, he becomes rested, but you swing him. That is 800 damage to each of their creatures and to them. Plus that 400 that you are guaranteed to do. No, you do 800 to your opponent with this guy. Plus an additional 4 because he'll have an attack power of 4. So you're doing 12 and then 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. You have enough creatures and he's dead from one card. It used to be more reliant on spells to deal with creatures and whatnot. So, destroy all resonators your opponent controls that dealt damage this turn. People have misused that spell so much. It's not even funny. I'm playing against me. I have 2 of them, so it makes him consistent in the deck. Yeah, this just removes graveyards from the game. I don't know why could only wonder why this spell exists whenever so many of my decks deal with the graveyard. Could only wonder. Another Herald, another Castle. This guy probably going to be removing, but when this card enters field, choose one, put 5+1/+1 counters on him, or it deals 1,000 damage to a target resonator. And the dude gains flying as long as there is a +1/+1 counter that was put on it by this card. So yeah, he becomes a 10-5 with flying. Woo. Not even that good for 4 mana. Like here's a much better flying card and it cost 1 more. Like this chick removing a 1-drop creature for 200 life, not even worth it. But yeah, that's the troll deck. I've got other decks, but I'm going to keep this stream short. However, if you guys do want to see the other ones, let me know, or what you think about this deck, or even this deck, because I can make this a 60 card deck. The thing is I kind of like it being a thick boy. I mean, there are obviously cards I know I can get rid of in here. Like, I know some that I could easily toss out and it would not affect it that much. Same with this deck. But yeah. That's it. Thank you guys for stopping by. See you guys later. After I figure out how to